Hello everyone, I'm Ken.
I'm Alex.
And welcome to the Cioffi Brothers podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about Yellow Lantern Hal Jordan. Now this was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive a couple years back.
Back in 2009.
Was it 09?
I believe it says it right here.
2009.
It's 10 years ago. San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. There was a limited 1,500 of them. And they came in...
Well, there was not just the Yellow Lantern version. There was
Correct.
yellow, orange, red, blue, and green.
Yep.
So getting the whole... Actually, except for purple or pink or...
There was no indigo or there was no
indigo or
violet.
Yep. But still, all the figures are very cool. We've talked about the White Lantern and
The Black Lantern, Hal Jordan,
and White Lantern Sinestro once already. So a little bit of this is going to be a bit of rehashing because we're going to hit a lot of the same points. But it's a different figure, and we thought you might enjoy the opportunity to get a different look at a different figure.
Especially because you don't see them out in the wild, which
You really don't.
Which
Yeah.
will be one of our points. But
Yep. So let's just jump right into it. I mean, obviously the first pro is, well, I say faithful to the comics, but it's kind of tough because when this figure was released, Hal Jordan actually had not appeared in this uniform. But when we say faithful to the comics, what we like to talk about are things like, obviously, the symbol is, it's the Sinestro Corps symbol, everything's in the right place. But what Alex pointed out is that even the lantern that he can hold, the handle itself is the right shape handle for a Sinestro Corps lantern.
yeah, back in the beginning they had the different shape to it.
Yeah, to distinguish
it from the Green Lanterns back when they first introduced the yellows.
Exactly, and then and it's got the nice base that comes with it. That is the the Sinestro Corps base. So from that perspective, I mean it's Hal Jordan. It's recognizable as Hal Jordan. So all those things considered, I still think the faithful to the comics piece is
definitely, and
legitimate.
even down one of my favorite little details is you might not be able to see it, but he's got a little molded yellow ring.
Well, and actually another thing to note is that it's on his left hand, which that's a Sinestro Corps thing. That's Sinestro. Sinestro is left-handed.
So there you go, even more faithful.
Exactly. So very good.
That goes into our next point. Great paint job.
The paint
on
yeah.
it. Great paint applique. It looks like they really, even though a lot of these were
they're repaints. And you've gotta take it for what it is. They are all repaints of basically two separate molds. But what's cool about that is that this was an exclusive. They didn't even need to do these figures, and the fact that they were so faithful in doing this special paint application, I think just goes to show
to a character that technically at the time did not
exist. Yeah,
did not exist.
He had worn the blue. He'd worn a mishmash of the blue and his green, so it wasn't a full blue, but he had basically worn the blue when he was wearing both the blue and the green at the same time.
Yeah, this is after the Sinestro Corps War.
Huh?
After the Sinestro Corps War.
Right, I'm saying but at the time.
At the time, he didn't even wear it. This was released right before. This was released during the Sinestro Corps War.
Okay, I'm thinking Blackest Night. But it couldn't have because they didn't have the whole spectrum at the time of the Sinestro Corps War.
No.
But either which way, I think at the time he had worn the blue, he had worn the red, obviously he'd worn the green, he had worn orange because he grabbed the lantern. So actually, yellow was the only one that he technically hadn't worn in the comics at that time. However, we did get to it. Well, for one thing, during the Sinestro Corps War, we did have a moment where Hal picked up one of a couple of the rings, and there's this is a recreation of another famous comic book cover where he is holding a bunch of green rings, and that's when, you know, they kind of retconned it that he was under the influence of Parallax, and he had stolen these rings from these lanterns who ended up becoming the Lost Lanterns, who come back later on. It's a whole big thing.
Read the run, it's great.
It's fantastic. And then he, you know, there's this picture here where he's wielding a bunch of Sinestro Corps rings, but at this point he does not actually have the Sinestro Corps uniform. But later on, during War of the Green Lanterns, the Green Lantern rings were corrupt, so the whole team of Hal Jordan, John Stewart, Guy Gardner, and Kyle Rayner put on other lantern rings to basically get in, fight their way into Oa. And in this particular instance, they basically all chose one that they felt were appropriate to them, and basically Hal said, well, I know how the yellow one works. I'm going to do that one. And obviously, in this case,
Guy had already worn that. So he said, red's good to go.
And Hope was super appropriate for Kyle, and Compassion was super appropriate for John Stewart. So,
even though that's not the first ones they picked. John originally picked the orange one first.
Yeah, basically,
no.
yeah. Hal was like, "That's not you," and Guy was like, "I ain't wearing pink."
Yeah,
I'm not wearing. All right, he's like, "I don't want to end up in a pink bikini or something like that."
So either way,
but I digress. Yeah.
Either way, read the run. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But going back to the figure, it fits very nicely, and you have a lot of the figures in the DC Direct line. It fits perfectly into the DC Direct line. It's a DC Direct figure. It's a DC Direct line figure. And it fits perfectly in with all the other figures, even all the other Sinestro Corps figures.
It matches stylistically with the other figures, and it's really fun to have him in with all the other Sinestro Corps figures that I had that came out during that time. I was kind of bummed when they kind of stopped it. I mean, obviously, it had a good run. I can't really complain too much because I've got a couple of blue lanterns, I've got a couple of yellow lanterns, a couple of reds, even a couple orange.
The two orange,
Morpheus
and Lex.
Yep. So and I've got Adam, Indigo Adam.
Yep.
And I've got a handful of Sapphires. I've got Carol, I've got Fatality, and Wonder Woman.
Yep.
So it just fits in nicely with the whole line. So it's a great figure to have.
There's very little cons to it.
Yeah.
I think the biggest two are the biggest two.
And they're kind of one and the same.
Yeah. Price point.
Yeah. And availability. They kind of go hand in hand because of the lack of availability. The price point gets jacked up there.
You're only going to be able to find these at high-end collection shop, high-end comic book stores, and eBay.
Yeah.
And they're going to run you a hefty penny.
Yeah. It's not fun.
It's not fun, but man, they're cool figures.
They are. They are. I think at one point, I mean, I don't know if they're up this high anymore, but I think at one point I was seeing like the red and the blue were going for really high.
They go, I looked it up right before we started filming. Red goes for about 160.
Really? That low even?
But I only found 2 listings like that.
Right.
And then I found a third listing for about 350.
I thought I had seen them in the range of 500 at one point. Like when they were first really
when they first were released, they were expensive.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I mean, they're still expensive. You're still looking at about $150 to $200 for, and some of them you can't even find.
Right.
You only find about 2 or 3 listings on eBay, if that.
So,
but you want to give a grade to it?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I don't think it's going to come as a surprise to anyone. But this is an A for me. I mean, it's got the ring. I mean, if you ever took it out of the package, which I'm not going to do that. I'm not this guy. I open everything, but because of the rarity of this figure and how special it is,
I got you this figure, and I told you not to open it. So you're not going to open it.
I know. And I didn't open this one, and I didn't open the White Lantern, the Black Lantern, or the White Lantern Sinestro. But I forget where I even was going. It's beautiful. It's awesome, and I give it an A.
Yeah,
100%.
Solid A.
Solid A.
Love it. I honestly wish they did ones they did like some DC Direct ones that weren't exclusive to Comic-Con.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Well, you can get not the DC Direct, but the other line that DC does, like the superposable ones.
Yeah.
But I kind of agree with you because, you know, I actually can you go grab that guy right over there?
I can.
Just pause for a minute. I hope we don't get like copyrighted for that. I don't know if that's actually a thing or not. But so they like this line of like kind of the superposable figures, which is great. And I remember when the first the Spider-Man figures that first came out that were kind of doing this, how excited I was for that. But as I've kind of, you know, shifted, you know, to more of just like a collector and just having them on display, the more joints means more like posability, but it also means that there's that many more points of failure as you pose the figure. So, you know, any of these joints, if they go loose, all of a sudden a figure can't do a certain pose anymore. But the quality of these figures is great. I'm not knocking them, but it's not the same as the DC Direct figures. I mean, the paint, you know, you had the kind of the shimmer paint that the figures had.
It had a more glossy finish to it.
And there was just much more detail. The paint job was nicer.
They were meant to be displayed.
They were meant to be displayed, whereas I think these are maybe more so meant to be played with. Or displayed in a less intense, you know, kind of display. So, for what it's worth, there's Hal.
But yeah, they did do a Hal Yellow Lantern.
They did all of them. They did white. They did the whole range.
And they did a Blue Lantern Kyle in that as a 2-pack.
Yeah, that's actually a shame we never got one of those. I'd like to do a custom fig. Maybe we can do that at one point.
Down the line.
Do a Kyle, but then we have to find a Kyle and sacrifice him for the cause.
For the cause, yes.
But I think that's all we have today. It's probably more than enough.
Yeah. Well.
So we'll call it for today. And as always, I just realized that happened. Huh?
Did it turn to Batman?
It turned to Batman, but that's okay because we're done anyway. But as always, guys, please comment, like, subscribe, hit the little bell.
Here you go. You got them all.
I got them all. First. It's a first.
I was waiting for it.
And we'll see you guys next time.